I mean, we've talked about everything but race tonight. We've talked about income. We've talked about class. We've talked about region. We haven't talked about race. This was a white lash. This was a white lash against a changing country. It was a white lash against a black president in part. And that's the part where the pain comes.
Are you racist?
I am the least racist person that you have ever met. I am the least racist person.
Are you bigoted in any way?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
So as I sit here with you, you've been very kind to me, right? You've introduced me to your family. You've been very kind to me. It has to, when people say that you're racist or homophobic or Islamophobic or whatever it is, that has to bother you, or compare you to Hitler. There are newspaper covers that compare. Does that bother you?
No, if things are true, if that were true, it would bother me tremendously, okay?
Because now there has been a mass gathering of hundreds of white supremacists giving the Hitler salute and saying, "Hail Trump," and talking about the natural genetic destiny of white people to conquer all other races. We've got supporters of Donald Trump celebrating his victory with the Nazi salute. And so in presidential politics, that creates a little bit of an imperative. If you're the guy who they're so psyched about, I mean, if you don't want that kind of support, if you do not want to be an inspiration to those kinds of people, you do actually have to overtly denounce them. Once we got the tape of the white nationalists yelling, "Hail Trump," and giving the Hitler-style salute, we got a statement from the Trump transition team in response. The statement from them tonight reads as follows, quote, "President-elect Trump has continued to denounce racism of any kind, and he was elected because he will be a leader for every American. To think otherwise is a complete misrepresentation of the movement that united Americans from all backgrounds." End quote. That's it. The president-elect has continued to denounce racism of any kind. He has? He has continued to... In what form has he done that? Is it in code in his tweets?
Are you racist?
I am the least racist person that you have ever met. I am the least racist person.
The media is hard selling the idea that Trump is openly racist. Apparently, it's not enough for them just to call him a racist or a white supremacist. No, the media insists that he is openly racist. According to the media, Trump was the white power candidate, and he is the leader of a new white supremacist movement. According to the media, the only bright side of Trump's election is that finally America has let its racism out into the open. Before I delve briefly into this matter, let's remember what racism actually is. Racism is the doctrine that one group of men is morally or mentally superior to another, and that this superiority arises out of inherited biological differences. It is morally reprehensible, and it has virtually no foundation in scientific consensus. Just as racism is reprehensible, so too is it reprehensible to accuse someone of racism without solid evidence and just cause. Such a slander is of the most vile and cruel nature. Unfortunately, our media and many people in our society are far too ready to use this slur carelessly, inaccurately, and unfairly. Now, as far as Trump being an open racist, I don't remember any coverage of Trump giving a speech at a white supremacist meeting about how black people are inferior and that only white people are real Americans. I admit that I did not follow the media's breathless coverage of his campaign very closely. However, I am pretty sure that if he had given such a speech, it would have been big news and I would have heard about it. What I do remember is that he regularly stopped at black churches in the inner cities. He regularly talked about contributions blacks have made to America. He regularly promised to fight for black people, and he repeatedly said that his campaign was about opposing racism and discrimination of all forms. Closer examination of the media's narrative exposes it as baseless and malicious. It is fake news of the most corrosive sort. First, the suggestion that Trump got a lot of support from the white supremacy movement is belied by the fact that there simply are not a lot of people in the white supremacy movement. The fact of the matter is that the worldwide membership of the KKK is about 3,000. In addition, estimates are that there are approximately 25,000 people who identify with the so-called alt-right. This movement, such as it is is mostly located in a few internet forums. Most of the members are, of course, unemployed, dysfunctional teenagers living in their parents' basements. But let's give the media's expressed alarm over its interpretation of Trump's views on race a complete opportunity to justify itself. Let's double the number of expected white supremacists. Let's assume that the total number is actually about 50,000. This is less than 1/50th of 1% of the American population. This is about the same number of people who belong to the Nation of Islam or the Church of Satan. This is half as many people who are Hare Krishnas. Thus, to believe the media's narrative that Trump is the white power candidate, you'd have to believe that Trump is willing to alienate all whites who abhor racism, which is about 200 million people, and all minorities, which is about 120 million people, just to get the vote of the white supremacists. To believe the media narrative, you'd have to ignore the fact that arguing that his targeting of this vote is equivalent to arguing about some other politician targeting the vote of the Satanists. This is ludicrous. No politician would adopt such a strategy. Certainly not one who needed more than 60 million votes to win. Second, although the popular mythology is that all white people are racist, the fact of the matter is that hardly any actually are. For example, the polls show that not even 1% of white people think that schools should be segregated or don't want to have a black family in their neighborhood. Not even 1% of white people think that the Civil Rights Act, which makes race discrimination illegal, is a bad law. A recent case study might be the most compelling evidence. When David Duke ran for Senate in Louisiana, he only got 3% of the vote. And that was in Louisiana, which is considered the most racist state in the country. Surely, if he ran nationally, it is unlikely that he would receive even 1% of the vote. To put the hallucination that an alarming number of white people are racist into further perspective, the fact of the matter is that 5% of Americans believe that the world is controlled by shape-shifting reptilians, and another 5% believe that Obama is the Antichrist. Third, Trump received a higher percentage of votes from minorities than either Romney or McCain. Trump gained with blacks, Latinos, and Asians. The only group which did not vote for Trump by more than 5 percentage points over Romney and McCain was whites. In fact, Trump gained fewer votes of whites than a generic Republican would have. Moreover, there was no surge in white turnout. The number of whites who voted is about the same as it was in 2012. Fourth, while it is possible that Trump has secret feelings which differ from what he says every day and from what he included in his campaign materials, it is only fair to consider his actual words in the face of the media's baseless slander. Let me quote a few of the things that Trump actually said. Number one, it is my highest and greatest hope that the Republican Party can be the home in the future and forevermore for African Americans, because I will produce and I will get others to produce. Number two, when I am president, I will work to ensure that all of our kids are treated equally and protected equally. Every action I take, I will ask myself, does this make life better for young Americans in Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit, Ferguson, who have as much right to live out their dreams as any other child in America? Number three, I employ thousands and thousands of Hispanics. I love the people. They're great workers. They're fantastic people, and they want legal immigration. I'll take jobs back from China. I'll take jobs back from Japan. The Hispanics are going to get those jobs, and they're going to love Trump. Number four, he described his campaign as a movement comprised of Americans from all races, religions, backgrounds, and beliefs who want and expect our government to serve the people, and to serve the people it will. I could go on. The point is that the media is intentionally ignoring Trump's inclusiveness. The point is that the media is biased as to its narrative and does not consider any evidence which undermines that narrative. This is unfair and unethical. If the media is going to slander Trump as a racist, the least it should do is give equal time to what he actually says about minorities. In conclusion, I note that the Democrats are whining that one of the reasons why Trump won was because the media paid so much attention to him. The Democrats are whining that all of this media attention transformed Trump from a joke into a serious candidate. Set aside the fact that Hillary's campaign encouraged the media to build up Trump because they thought he would be the easiest Republican to beat. The reason I mention this is that if one lesson from this election is that the media ought not give so much attention to fringe elements, we should ask whether the media should be giving so much attention to the KKK. Doesn't that risk transforming them from a fringe element into a serious political force? Moreover, if the media continues to use the term white nationalists to describe Trump, people will start to think that white nationalism won. Since people like winners, this might not be healthy. People might start believing that white nationalism is good, and not because of anything Trump did, but because of the media's stupidity and appetite for sensationalism.
Picket lines and picket signs. Don't punish me with brutality. Talk to me so you can see. Oh,